Right, gonna get ready to rock and roll. Yep. Okay. Greetings and salutations, everyone. How are you all doing today?
Great.
Pretty good.
Okay, good. I was wondering, just making sure everybody's doing okay. My name is William Honolulu Jr. I'm an African American male. I am bald with a beard, and I am attractive. So we want to make sure that we provide introductions of ourselves and visual descriptions for anyone who's watching this or participating who may be visually impaired. Cool. So good morning to you, greetings and salutations. Today's panel will be focusing on digital navigators, and what we've done is to bring leaders together from the front lines, not people who sit in offices all day long and decide what happens for other people and things like that, but people who actually are on the front line and make sure that we are focused on digital inclusion. We want to make sure that we are talking to people who are helping our residents develop the digital skills necessary to participate effectively in a more digitized society. As we've seen, as costs are being cut and things of that nature, a lot more services are moving to online and digital platforms. AI is becoming a much more pervasive concept and threat or benefits, depending on how you see it, but it is becoming a greater part of life. And we need to understand how those things impact the residents that we serve. We have representatives from libraries, higher educational institutions, schools, and we're going to talk about how digital navigation and digital navigators are working throughout Baltimore City in particular. We're looking at things that are practical, scalable, and impactful in the digital navigation space. We'll hear strategies that speak to the evolving roles of digital navigators and why their work is essential to shaping an inclusive digital technology for all. But if you give me an opportunity, I'd like to read from our speakers or presenters' bios. Our first presenter or our first panelist is Terry Monk. She's the Digital Navigator Program Manager for the University of Maryland Extension. Terry, I said that already. She leads the statewide digital navigation program and facilitates the Maryland Digital Equity Coalition. 2022 NTN Digital Equity Fellow. Terry brings hands-on experience advancing digital inclusion through cross-sector partnerships, workforce development, and community-driven strategies. And I'm sure she'll drop a plug in for some upcoming events.
Oh, yeah.
Okay, all right. Gotta make sure everybody knows what's going on. Dawn Sheary is the Director of Virtual Learning and Instructional Technology for Baltimore City Public Schools. She brings 30 years of experience to her role, and throughout her extensive career with Baltimore City Schools, she has served as a teacher, staff developer, principal, and district leader. If any of you all have ever had experience working with Baltimore City Schools, you know being able to navigate all of those roles is a skill indeed. Currently, Dawn drives critical initiatives to advance instructional technology integration. Her work overseeing the successful deployment of Canvas as the learning management system for the district, championing the accessibility of digital learning tools and pioneering the development of academic generative artificial intelligence guidance and providing essential support for technology use throughout Baltimore City Schools. She also plays a vital role in supporting the district's only fully virtual school, the Baltimore Revolutionary School for Virtual Education. And last but certainly not least, we have Millie Godfrey. She's the Information Systems Training Manager for the Pratt Library. She has dedicated 24 years to the Pratt Library, where she currently serves as the Information Systems Training Manager. She leads a dynamic team of 19 staff members, including 8 digital navigators stationed at Pratt branches. Under her leadership, the team is committed to providing digital literacy education and personalized one-on-one support to library visitors. Additionally, they conduct virtual classes and extend their services to Baltimore City Health Department senior centers and senior and community locations, conducting specialized classes that foster digital skills in Baltimore City communities. All right, so the way that this is going to work, we're going to, we have a few questions that we're going to ask our panelists and get their perspectives on, and then we're going to open it up to everyone so that this can be a more dynamic engagement. Is that okay?
Sounds good.
Okay, thank you. All right. So as panelists, as you all introduce yourselves, again, make sure to provide those who may be visually impaired with the description. So,
You want to do it now, or do you want to do it as questions?
as the questions come, just introduce yourself and describe yourself. But first, I kind of want to set a baseline for everyone about what are digital navigators and what are their roles in your different organizations. 'Cause sometimes, we come to the table with a definition, and that definition is based on our experience. We want to make sure that we level set. So, can you tell me about what digital navigators are in your organization and what their roles are? That'd be awesome. Yeah.
Sure. My name is Carrie Mum. I'm the Digital Navigator Program Manager at Marylanders Online. I am a white woman. Sometimes I say angry white woman, but today I'm feeling pretty good. I haven't thought too long today. With a black jumpsuit and silver glasses. So I'm really happy to be here today. Thank you very much. I have strong opinions about what digital navigators are, because I really fully strongly believe that almost all of us are digital navigators in one form or another, and that we both need formal digital navigators and informal digital navigators in our world in order to manage the consistent change and the rapid growth of our shifting of life online. So really anyone who helps anyone else along that journey, I think, is a digital navigator. We certainly see them where the social determinants of health meet digital processes, right? So we see them in telehealth, we see them in education, we see them in government services, in our personal lives, in our social lives, all of those things. So digital navigators help folks kind of cross that journey and that path.
Good morning. My name is Dawn Shire. I'm the Director of Virtual Learning and Instructional Technology for Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm a white woman wearing a black blouse with shoulder length, light brown hair that's a little curly today. And so for me, digital navigators are really our teachers and our students. My whole team works to identify tools and support training for those digital navigators, and we find that our teachers are really helping our students and their families in many cases to understand the technology that is evolving. And as you know, our students are digital natives, so many times they are able to very quickly pick up what we're using and able to be a digital navigator for both their families and sometimes even the teachers they work with.
Good morning. I'm Emily Godfrey. I'm the Information Systems Training Manager for the Pratt Library. I have dark brown short hair, cut like a bob to my ear. I have a blue blouse, and I'm wearing a multicolor blue, yellow, and white stripe skirt. Our digital navigators, to me, are the beginning of digital inclusion. What digital navigators do for the Pratt Library is bring to the community a vital role in empowering individuals to reach their maximum understanding of what it is to live in this digital world. So they start off at senior centers, and sometimes they're in library branches, and they are at our library technology centers, and they come together and meet the customer's needs. And I always tell my team is, we know that you know this. We want you to go to the customers and find out what is it that they want to know in this digital world to navigate online banking and shopping and whatever else they need. Not necessarily spreadsheets, because they're not doing anything to elaborate on the knowledge of spreadsheets unless they're perhaps at a job or working in finance. So meet them where they need to be and bring the community up to the digital age.
Thank you all. What are some of the different models for digital navigator programs, and what have you learned about their effectiveness?
Well, I can tell you about our program, Marylanders Online. We have a digital skill building program with digital navigation. We operate a 6-day-a-week helpline. So you can call anybody in the state of Maryland and beyond, can call and get help, ask our questions, ask technical questions, ask about maybe is this a scam, anything you really need. So we have that, and then we also have place-based digital navigators and some of our extension offices that can kind of help with the different needs. Again, the different offices have very different needs and wants around digital improvement programs. So we start with what they want, what they request, and we try to build that. We also work with the College of Information to develop our resources. So anytime a digital navigator, a tech educator, or somebody from the community or somebody from the hotline calls in with an issue, we track those things and we start to make those resources available to people. And they're all on our line online at marylandersonline.org. What I've learned is that we really don't have the capacity to serve the need statewide, and we know that, and that's why we partner with all of our programs. And we've really focused on this last couple of years in building tools to support digital navigators and to help build place-based digital navigation programs. So I'll tell you a little bit more later about some of our toolkits and certifications and resources that we are trying to focus on to provide for digital navigators and their programs and their teams across the state.
Could you just let everybody know the website again?
MarylandersOnline.org.
Just want to make sure everybody heard it.
It's a big website.
Yes. So for city schools, we identify tech lead in each school. So for us, since we have that space, we try to identify tech lead in each school, and particularly if we have a new initiative. So we are rolling out the Canvas learning management system for high schoolers coming this fall. And so each of those schools will have a Canvas lead, and that is someone that we can then directly coordinate with. So we provide training at the beginning of an initiative for all teachers within the district in both a synchronous fashion through like a live Zoom call where we're showing them the platforms and doing that instruction. And then we provide asynchronous training, be able to go back and really do that training in chunks over time. And we're also provide tools that are on the Baltimore City Public Schools website for both families, and then we'll have student tools as well that teachers will be able to give out to their students. And we have currently tools on our website, and I can share that site later. And we also continue to grow that as we bring out new initiatives. So our AI guidance will be coming out soon before the school year begins at the end of August. And information around Canvas will as well. So that stuff is being developed now and finalized and will be coming soon to families and students, but already has been shared with staff and schools.
At the Pratt Library website, prattlibrary.org, we have a services department that our particular digital navigators share with the community. We have peer navigators, we have housing navigators, we have social workers in the library, we have lawyers in the library. And as digital navigators interact with the community, they are able to listen to them. And that's the first thing that's on our model, is just to listen before you do anything. So they listen to them and are able to see that the services they need right now would be a social worker or a lawyer in the library. And then we go from there. We do utilize very heavily Marylanders Online because they were our partner in training our digital navigators when they started a year ago. So thank you for that. So we just passed our 1 year mark, and our digital navigators also work in healthcare because Fred has a nurses in the library, and digital navigators are the ones that customers will look to be able to navigate to their healthcare facilities, their portals. How do I set up this meeting? I've got a link. What do I do? My doctor wants to meet with me. I don't know how to do this. And so digital navigators are on duty for that as well as helping to not only digital equity concepts, but also healthcare concepts.
I want to, Dawn, ask you a follow-up question because you mentioned Canvas and it was even in your introduction bio. Can you tell us more about Canvas and what that is and how it will impact instruction or administration at schools?
Absolutely. So it's a learning management system. And what that means is we are currently developing courses, if you will. We're calling them blueprint courses that we will push out to high school teachers and their students. And students will then be able to receive their information in their coursework through the platform. Now, they'll be live in school with the teacher, but they're accessing that from their laptop, and they're able to then do the work using the various tools within Canvas, and then submit the work. And then the teacher can easily grade. And as things evolve, we talked about AI earlier, artificial intelligence will then create some additional, it'll help the teacher. There's something called speed grading, right? Where things can be graded quickly for the teacher, and then the teacher is able to get their eye on it and go in and put real-time feedback and look at those grades to make sure that they are appropriate. So there's lots of uses within that tool, and that's just one tool that we are rolling out. It also, within that tool, there's an accessibility checker, which is really important. We're doing a lot of work around accessibility. And so when we create content in Canvas, we're making sure that it has the appropriate headings, that it has the appropriate color contrast, that it has, the alternative text for images. And that checker in Canvas will require, it'll flag. If you don't do that within the tool, it'll give you a little, number of how many issues, and it will help you fix those issues. So accessibility is a big piece for us around digital content for students. And that's one of the many ways that we're doing.
So before we move on to the next question, Millie, you talked about working with managers online to do the initial training for the digital navigators.
Yes.
How important in this digital navigation space is collaboration in kind of deploying and making sure that we're utilizing best practices for digital navigators?
Oh, it's extremely important. We appreciate it, managers on the university coming on board to actually give our digital navigator a 9 to 11 week training concept. And just sharing the other things I did know, but other things are how do you do this and just open up a great dialogue for us and making sure that the digital navigators not only knew that they were appreciated, but just knew that these were the type of things that the community was looking for. And even though sometimes they may have found it a little basic, everybody still had to have that input. So being a partner to not only the university, but a partner with BSIT, as an example, it has been great for the digital navigators and for the prep because we have learned so much and we've been able to expand more than we thought that we could.
Okay.
I'm going to take you next, and you want to talk about from the university's perspective how that partnership is working.
Oh my gosh, it's everything for us. I think that partnership had just started when I started about a year ago. And we developed it with the College of Information, Marylanders Online, and Pratt Library. And we piloted the course with them. And then I'm happy to say that we have fully transitioned the course into a campus, hybrid model Canvas course, which is going to be, it's 12 modules now. So roughly, it's very customizable depending on the community. So you can kind of build a cohort around the particular needs of that group and focus on different things. So you can kind of, we wanted something that would work across lots of different settings and lots of different communities, and working with the craft helped us learn how to do that. But it's called, we've renamed it, it's the Marylanders Online Digital Navigator Toolkit. And it's called Monet. You can find it on our website. All of the content is on our site for free right now. You can just look at it and take it.
How much did you say that costs?
Free.
Okay. So, people who are watching this online, for now, by the way, so jump on it, Monet.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the actual modules are there. You can look at them and play with them and do anything you want with them anytime. We have developed an open learning course, and also we have it on Canvas as well. So we're transitioning and we're going to offer it as an open learning course with a certificate, with badging, all of the stuff. So, and the last two modules have been developed by the College of Information Sensors, and they're both focused on AI. So it's very great. There are 120-something slide decks. We worked with Science League to produce the companion materials and all the to things. When we do resources, we create give help and get help resources. So the kind, well, I want to help myself, and here's my tutorial, or I'm helping somebody else, and here's how I can help teach them. There's some tools for that. So the other part of that is that we're getting ready to launch it very soon, like August 1st. And we are partnering with BDEC, the Baltimore Digital Equity Coalition, for the first 2 public cohorts that we will deliver in Maryland here. And that will be happening probably, we're aiming for 3rd week of August to start that cohort. The thing about it is there are self-paced modules, and then we come together and do some hybrid togetherness where we're role playing and sharing information. So it's kind of like 3 sections, 3 or 4 sections, an in-person, 3 or 4 sections, an in-person. Those can be done virtually or in person. And then we can try to kind of come together to have a big celebration. And then the second one we're trying to do in conjunction with the Maryland Digital Equity Summit, Digital Opportunity Summit, whatever it's called these days. And that will be more of an intensive opportunity to get trained and get certified and come together again with peers from around the state. So I'll talk about that. It's called Domain. If you sign up for our newsletter, you'll get the information. We have a link on our website where you can put your name in there to tell us you're interested in taking the course or hosting a cohort or anything like that. Finally, I would just say thanks for the American Rescue Plan Act and us being able to develop these resources, and we want to continue to share them as widely as we can for as long as we can.
You mentioned the American Rescue Act and the funding that came through a lot of our federal partners. As many of us are aware, there have been changes at the federal level. And those changes have resulted in reprioritizing, because I work for a government agency, so give me a second, I gotta make sure I say this correctly, that there has been a reprioritization of funding distribution at the federal level. What we've realized over the last few years is that digital navigators, and even conceptually, was really driven by the impact of COVID and the realization. There were many of us who knew that the digital divide was a big deal, and it was having a significant impact on the delivery of services and people's ability to be successful. But COVID really brought that home and just made it very plain for a lot of people who otherwise did not know. And now that COVID is over, separate issue, but now that COVID is over, some of the priority or some of the urgency behind it has shifted. What we found is that a lot of the digital navigator titles were associated with grants and things, particularly around the Digital Equity Act or the other federal funding models. But we also found, to Dawn's point earlier, that there are a lot of digital navigators whose titles don't necessarily say digital navigator. And so how do you see the digital navigator role evolving as far as emerging technology is concerned? And each of you spoke really well about community expectations and being very responsive to the needs of the people you serve. But how do you see those roles changing and evolving over time?
Sure. So for us, I think, our rules are a little more, we don't call them digital navigators, they're leads at schools. But for us, the AI space is how the current evolution, I think that's going to be a big changer, because many of our students are utilizing AI outside of school. And this also connects to the cell phone policy, as many have heard from city schools. And so I think we'll see with more of the AI use outside of school or within the school. So we're doing a lot of work around, we have an academic generative AI guidance that we're putting out. It is not policy, and it's not policy because we have policies around bullying. And not to bully, AI might just be a means for that, right? We have policies around acceptable use of technology. So this is guidance around how to use AI, when you can use AI, and when you shouldn't. And it includes like an acceptable use scale. And so we're beginning to train teachers so that they can, particularly in high school, train their students around how to use AI and give assignments that are appropriate for it, right? So that they may say for an assignment, this is a level 1 on the AI scale, which needs to know AI use because I want to gauge a certain skill and understanding of how you are able to how that skill is developed within you. Or it could be it's a level 3. Where I'm going to allow you to use AI for certain components of this particular assignment, right? And so for us, that is where we're moving. We're obviously moving in Canvas, which is another space for us, and we'll continue to evolve technology because we need to make sure our students are prepared for the future, all of our students. But I think the change for us will mostly be around both the AI space and the accessibility of digital tools. We have recently, within the last several years, there's state law around ensuring that tools are accessible for all students. And so any digital tool that we are purchasing for students, we have to put through a rigorous accessibility process to ensure that any student can access that tool, any student, regardless of disability, even if they're blind. And so how do we ensure that a screen reader can really access and utilize that tool? And so we have a full process for that, and we will continue to evolve that process. And you'll see somewhat less tools being used at schools because some tools may not meet those requirements, particularly if the company that has developed that tool isn't within our state, right, or isn't within our country and doesn't have the same requirements. So that's something that for us is kind of evolving that way.
So with Brad, when we talk about we put it very well, as far as our timeline for some of these grants. And this is very close for us because we have one coming up August the 31st. We're going to lose 3 digital navigators from the HRSA side, and that's the health component. And so we are working diligently to find out within the footprint, how can we utilize some of our existing staff? Because as mentioned in the panel, we all are digital navigators, so to speak. And how can we use our existing staff to take on that role as a digital navigator, as well as do the other tasks that you're assigned to do? And then we have another deadline coming up the end of June, where we'll lose all of them. So we are actually we're meeting with library services staff, we're meeting with our CEO to try to figure out how do we use existing staff to continue the work that we're doing, because teams come in, customers come in, and they never remember the digital navigator's name, but they said that they're digital navigator on duty. So they're looking for them and the expertise that they have brought to our organization. So we are hoping for the best, but we know we have a lot of work to do in the future to try to make sure that we are able to provide for the community. And it's not just the community on our, say, for instance, online classes. We've got folks who have relatives and say, "Oh, you're doing a computer class?" Well, they're in Texas, they're in California, and they just joined it. So we're spread throughout the United States. So we appreciate the fact that we will give the digital navigators, but we're not trying to lose them. We're just going to go forward and just try to rename perhaps some of our staff.
No, that you have
We're facing similar fates, I guess. We're currently operating on legislative funds and coupled with ARPA funds that will sunset at the end of this year. We're working really diligently with our partners. And it's one of the reasons we're so focused on Maryland Digital Equity Coalition. We built this entire program in partnership, obviously looking at CRAD and all our partners. So we feel like, it goes on in partnership as well. I don't think anybody quite knows where we're all going to be next year and how that's all going to look. One thing I do know is that we're doing this work prior to COVID and prior to the Digital Equity Act, and we'll continue to do this work. Just scrappy, get together any resources and information that we can. We do have, after 5 years of intensive building around the digital inclusion ecosystem, lots of resources and people and knowledge out there. One thing I would say is focus on just getting all that out there. please don't ask to build curricula in your grants anytime in the next couple of years. It's just not a good use of funds. There's so much good stuff out there. And we can help you find it. Even if it's not our stuff, it's in abundance. It's out there. People have been doing this work and they've been happy to share it. So really, let's focus on supporting people at the community-based level, place-based level, faith-based organizations. Like you said, everybody's a digital navigator.
I want to follow up on the evolving role. Can you talk a little bit more about how community engagement and what the feedback that you're getting? You mentioned the feedback that you're getting, like when one person finds out, then you talk about how they'll just pull somebody from Texas, like, hey, a family member knows and needs more information. And you talked about how you all get information from some of your place-based services on how to develop some of these other things. How important is it for you all, for the future of digital navigation and digital navigators, that community input and that community feedback piece?
Oh, it's huge. And one of the biggest concerns I have, even beyond the funding, is the amount of community input and outreach that was done around the Digital Equity Act and the BE program in particular. There's a huge emphasis on going into communities, sitting on porches, meeting people, making sure you follow through, and yet again, it's become another opportunity to let people down. And so, we just have to kind of push through that and keep showing up, even though maybe we don't have what we hope to have at this point. But it really, and you meet folks where they are and you give them what they need if you have that, right? If you have that tool where you try to make that, it can't be top down. You know that. It just has to come from the community. Hey, I need this help, I need this resource, how can I get it? And then we can try to meet that need. But just being honest and transparent about everything that's happening and how it's affecting us and what we're going to try to do moving forward.
But if you want to follow up on that, because you also mentioned the getting community feedback and meeting people where they are, how important is that going to be to the future of digital navigators and how programs and these roles evolve?
Exactly. Community feedback is just essential. Our community is always talking to the library about what their needs are, what their wants are, what their wants are. And so we are looking at our services and trying to expand them even without additional staff. We are expanding them to make sure that we meet those needs. And so we have via the HRSA or ARPA, we have surveys going out that are asking the community, what is it that you're doing? Not necessarily how we're doing, but what is it that you need? Are we meeting your goals? Are we answering your question? Are we providing the services? And so without that community input, you won't know what our next steps are going to be. It's really important.
So I would just say for city schools, every single one of our schools is a community school. Every single one of our schools has a community school coordinator. So that, as of today, is not changing. And so those community school coordinators do a needs assessment at every school. And then based on the needs of the community, they provide supports. And that runs the gamut from anything from food needs or different workshops or information. It just runs the gamut in schools. And so I think for us, it's continuing to get input from the community for those pieces. And then also anytime we do something new, we get community input. So I spoke earlier about academic AI guidance. It took us a year because we got community input after we wrote the guidance. We did 15 different sessions with community groups to get feedback. And some of those were teachers, but a lot of them were broader groups that involved community parents and community leaders and students and all the stakeholders that we can use. And so for us, it really is about all along the way, knowing what the community needs, those community school coordinators, but then as we're developing and pushing out new initiatives, getting feedback around those pieces from our community.
And I want to follow up with you. each of the schools is kind of a little laboratory in and of itself. It is literally very reflective of the communities that they serve. So you have all these little pockets of experimentation about what things are happening in the larger social context, but particularly here in as far as digital navigation and community engagement and those things. Have you all seen any area or any things that have been happening in the schools that can be brought to the larger community? So any of the kind of instructional models, any of the tools that have been successful, or are they successful because they're in the school context?
So I think just having a point person that knows the community, what the community needs are, has been critical. And then so I think that is just an approach thinking about where is the hub of the broader community, and is there a champion at that hub? Even if there's a digital navigator located there, is there a champion that can then that knows where the resources are?
Mhm.
So that champion doesn't have to be super techy. They just need to know where the resources are, right? They need to know who to reach out to and where to reach out if the resources aren't living in a virtual space. The other thing for us is beyond just your basic navigating an online world. It's around, for our students, providing access to actual tools to support things like coding. And so in the last several years, we developed a tech share. So we have a tech share library that my team manages after hours, and we allow schools, because all of our schools are resource funded, right? They have different levels of funding based on the number of students, and they all have different needs that they need to put that funding towards. So not all of them are able to purchase things like Spiro indie robots. The students can code with you with a screen or without a screen. And so we purchase that at the district level. We do training for staff at those schools, and then we allow them to check those materials out for a month's time. And they can do multiple ones if it's available, but that allows them to have that resource in their building and to utilize it with students so that they are able to have that access to something that they may not otherwise have. So just thinking about, are there opportunities for lending libraries for specific things that the community doesn't have access to? And then how do you train champions that then support the utilization of that and the ongoing kind of management of what that is?
Cool. Let's see. We talked about the fact that Navigator functions already exist in libraries, schools, healthcare, and housing. What concrete opportunities do we have across to collaborate across sectors? Again, we've seen the University of Maryland and that library for digital navigators, but one of the things that is happening in this dynamic funding environment that we're living in is that the value proposition has to be more effectively articulated. People are looking for how many people got jobs, how many people actually attended appointments, what are the health outcomes, those types of things. In your experience with digital navigators, what are some of the concrete opportunities that you see to collaborate across different sectors, different fields? Dawn just mentioned mimicking their tech share library, potentially community-wide, but in other places, you will see opportunities for digital navigators to work across sectors or industries.
Oh, absolutely. Our digital navigators have been able to connect to very, very closely, even with the Department of Unemployment, where it's maddening to try to get through their lines. Everybody has to make a phone call, but they got to the technique where they know and understand who to call, what questions to ask to get the customers on track. So that particular, not necessarily a partnership, but that understanding of that system, the understanding of the health system and what it takes. I mean, I don't have any choice. Where do I go to find it? And so you have a connection with a lot of different things, such as that, where normally you think about digital navigators and just digital equity, but it's more than that. It's the services that they provide and that they connect to, and that they're very, very well informed on how to do certain things because their connection with the community.
Since I've been doing this for a couple of years, I'm involved in a couple different types of cross-sector partnerships. I work with the University of Utah Department of Nursing on a grant and advisory board to work both with 211 or 311 here and the emergency rooms and digital navigators to see if those improve health outcomes. So then, it's a second round of the study that we could do with nurses, which I think is amazing, and then also just connecting to community resources and how effective are we making those shifts and those handoffs. That's what the focus of that is. But really, like we mentioned before, it's cross-sector. It's everywhere. We run into a lot of issues with e-government resources. A lot of calls on that. We've developed a resource for the NBA, the Motor Vehicle Association, to help people get an appointment. Our resource is so utilized, it's like 67% of people come to our website and know that thing. And so we've tried to, really listen and look at that data and provide walkthrough tools for both so that we too can call and try to help them figure it out. I think it's everywhere. It's students. We worked with the governor's office this year, the Department of Service and Civic Innovation, to try to get a service tier program off the ground for digital navigators throughout the state. We're going to continue to do that. I don't think it's going to happen for our program this year, but there are many digital navigators in those service tier positions this year, and we're committed to use our resources to help train them and support them in any way that we can, and make sure those students have a good experience and continue to scale digital navigation as a career path for young people. That to me is, something that is really kind of feels like a no-brainer, and feels like it should be, incredible internship opportunities and volunteer opportunities, things that students need. So I just kind of look that way and just formalizing and normalizing the roles in as many different ways as we can.
And I wanted to add another project that Pat has. I'm not the manager of that project, my goodness, but I'm going to be right in the middle of it. But we have a grant with the Compensate University, and there's 2 digital navigators that have been hired into the end of December. That's one on campus, but they're almost like 49 digital navigators, and they're going out to the community around the Montgomery area, the West Baltimore area. And not only are they teaching students and perhaps staff, but they're teaching the community. They're going to the American Office of Unemployment Development. They'll be doing some work there. So that partnership is going to be expanding, and they'll be providing or sharing the services like monitors online and the prep peers and the nurses and lawyers from the library. So all those, some programs are ending, others are expanding, and we're hoping that might be one where we're going to get additional funds, because we just got started, and that Montgomery corridor is very, very large, and we really want to be able to provide the best services there. So as I said, I don't manage it, but I'll be right in the room.
I think for us, the cross-sector work is, as you mentioned, to bring in other sectors that are in that field to support our students, right? We have CTE, career tech education programming, sorry, acronyms are all over the place in education, in many of our high schools, and so allowing our students to be exposed to different careers and internships is really, really important. We also have, many of our schools have tech teachers in the K-8 space. That looks a little different, right? But it allows students to see the possibilities so that they get excited and want to go into a pathway, a career tech pathway when they get to high school. And so all of those pieces are really important, and the more they can see what that looks like in reality from real people in the workforce, just is crucial. And so for us, it's kind of the other way. We're utilizing those folks to really support our students' growth and understanding.
What I'd like to do now is to open it up to any of the members of the audience who have any questions for our panel about digital navigators, or if you want to share some of your experience. You all don't look like a shy group, so yes.
Hi, I'm Bill Patrick, and first of all, I applaud all of your efforts in bringing familiarity to the digital navigators. My question is this, and for anyone that wants to think about it. If a digital navigator calls one of your helplines and says, I have an error message, it's stopping me from getting my goal. How does the person figure out what that error message actually means? Because some of them are so nebulous and things happening in the background that you can't see, that it's almost impossible that you get way, way, way more information to figure out what's going on.
Well, I'm gonna start with this end. So it's easier for us in an educational setting because we do have a help desk. We do have a Office of Informational Technology section that if you're calling the help desk for a tech issue, you will be sent to. So if you are a student or a teacher, right, on school grounds, they are able to actually go into your computer and see the message. So it's a little easier for us because they're on our network. And so if you're doing that from school, you can. If you're doing it from home and the student is in their city school's browser, we can also walk them through that in a little bit of an easier way. So for us, for our internal community of students and teachers, we kind of have that built into what we do within our help desk itself.
Well, I guess, is it a password recovery? Is it an error message? Is it, there's always going to be those things. We have a knowledge bank that we do keep, and our navigators keep very current.
So is that AI based?
Not yet, but it's getting there. It's right ahead of us. So we have that for our internal staff and anybody that calls. So if it's another digital navigator or a community member or whatever. Also kind of comes to like when we do Zoom calls or things that we think are maybe accessible to everyone and they're not. So we've been working with groups, particularly because the funding is getting cut back and a lot less in-person things are happening. We want to be able to continue to support community-based organizations to do their work. So we've worked with a couple groups to deliver anti-scam webinars online, but working on the front end of that to make sure ahead of time that those folks can get connected to those Zoom calls. So that is like step one. We're going to help you. We're going to have people like ready to go in case you're trying to get in the call, you can't get in, and so we just work through all that and figure out how to share screens. You have to take a picture of it and text it to me. We just do whatever, but we're trying to bring digital navigators together so that those knowledge banks and those shared resources are shared in real time. So that would be a chatbot or this or that. Or right now we have the old school version, which is the Slack channel. Hey, how do I get this thing done? That kind of thing. But we're working towards more customized chatbots for different purposes. Particularly, I'm working on a project that has a chatbot for elder care and caregivers of dementia. So how can I answer this question really quickly and know that the source of the information I'm asking is supported by my caregivers, my doctors.
One thing you said it's really important that I think all of us do is when things come into whatever our help desk is, we keep track of that data, and if we're seeing common errors, then we get ahead of it. So for us on BaltimoreCitySchools.org, the families section, there's a virtual learning link at the bottom, and there are lots of resources there, but we also have common fixes, right? And so as things pop up and anything that we notice is a common issue, we'll make sure that the help desk has step-by-step instructions for how to address that. And that's for community members, families that call in for a student issue. So I think all of us kind of learn from the data and know how to get ahead of some of those. It may not seem common to you as the user, but it is common if we're hearing it or seeing it over and over again on our help desk.
Yeah, and Brett has similar help desk services for digital navigators so that We have a system called Solar Winds that they simply send a picture, a description of the error. There's someone on the other end of that help desk that is going to look at it and be able to tap into their computer, as long as they're using their Pratt laptop or their Pratt PC at work. They'll tap into the computer to figure out what the problem is and fix it. So we have immediate help, and sometimes they'll chat among one another. Hey, I've got this problem. Have you seen it? Do you know what the remedy is for it? And then we will share. They will share back and forth. And of course, as a manager, I'll get involved because I'll say something like, "That doesn't sound right. Let me kind of like fix this explanation so that we can get to the root of the problem." But they have immediate support.
So also one of the things that is helpful, as you know, where the panelists have described, is even the fact that you ask those questions becomes really important. And that's one of the things that we cannot overemphasize, is that while we're talking about digital navigators providing services to community members, it is a bi-directional relationship. That the input and the feedback that we get from community shapes how we do our work. And so again, if the community does not feel comfortable picking up the phone or logging in and saying, hey, this is the problem that we're having, then we're not going to have the information to understand the urgency or to understand the consistency of the problem, so that we can take steps to train the digital navigators and to train the other staff and community members on how to address those. So I don't want us to ever look at this as, mentioned before, a top-down relationship where, the digital navigators are coming and we're going to save you guys. Like, it's not that. We are doing this in community. And regardless of what kind of formal organizational structure we have to go out and do it, this is a bi-directional relationship. And if we miss that, we miss the entire purpose of it. We might as well just shift everything to AI and just have a bunch of documents that people can look at online. If we miss the human element, then we just become robots. One of the things, and actually thank you for that question to show how feedback helps, is one of the things, and again, it's probably not a great career move to mention this in front of my boss, but one of the things that I think may need to happen is a knowledge, maybe quarterly or monthly knowledge share activity between some of our DEFs, digital equity funds, getting caught up in acronyms, I apologize. Some of our digital equity fund grantees like Prosperous Tomorrow and Empower, who have been really great partners in trying to make sure that we get on the ground and make sure that we're engaged with the community, so that when we do have these kind of conversations, they may be coming to one particular organization, and then we can get ahead of it by sharing that type of information. So we may or may not hear our office doing something like that in the future. But now that I think that's about it, and I said it out loud, it's probably going to be me doing it in the future. I didn't think this one all the way out. Okay.
We're going to do something similar with our Movating digital navigation training program. We're going to continue to do a community practice, like a monthly call, some shared channels, things like that. So we can do it at the statewide level. So you don't know.
Oh, thank God. Like we have been, this is a great idea. He's like, oh, wait, you didn't take that off. Okay. Yeah.
I just have a comment. Something I noticed from doing the different navigator training we've been doing is that a lot of the curriculums also are always culturally congruent, right? Mm-hmm. So like when we, because I know earlier was talking about curriculum, it's just that when you try to use different curriculums, I always found myself making shifts and changes, mm-hmm. Because it just doesn't resonate the same, right? I feel like, I hate to say it so bad, I feel like Baltimore just already do sometimes, yeah, right? So when you're looking at nationwide curriculum, a lot of times, when it comes to digital navigator training, we find ourselves giving so many examples, right? Like using Baltimore as reference and like really connect the dots that way. So I just want to give that comment, just ensure that, because a lot of the work that we do, the language that we create, there's a gap that I feel. It's been that not only culturally congruent, but also having staff, right, to translate in a way that the people you're training by cohort, right, understand. And that's something we started to add to, I don't want to say our intake process, but like interviews, right? Because I think in Baltimore as a whole, there's a huge disconnect when it comes to what I call decoding and translating information, even down to some of those resources, right? To be able to demystify those things and in real time it's a real gap.
Yeah, that's, so our voting training was Baltimore made, which we're really excited about. But exactly right, like we wanted it to be able to be customizable to the level that we needed to do it. You know, by every cohort, you know, change things, we do whatever we want.
Exactly. One of the things that during training, we had an opportunity to do it on mine, is that we have an internal manager who actually read the script, we read the script, and we were able to make changes. We were able to say that this was not flowing, these words need to be changed to something different, we need a better example. And then the team took it back and the program coordinator was able to make the changes that we requested. That was a good thing about the training that we had. We weren't just trained them, we looked at the training and said, this is not gonna work for us because it's not worded correctly. And we'd like you to change it and put another example, and they did just that. But I do understand what you're saying about training in general, because we always have to add our special flair to the training that we do in order to, again, meet the community's need. And so we have to explain it a different way. We have to look at it and say, this is too broad, and it has to be broken up into different pieces. And that's the way that we get the information out to the customers we serve.
The majority of my team's time is used developing training and initiating training, right? And we leverage teachers to support us in that, to make sure that we have their lens and their voice in the work, if it's teacher training that we're doing. But absolutely, that is our work for that.
We're in the third round of pilots coming up. This one would be that's what we're gonna do. And we're doing the same thing every time, you know, give us the double feedback, what can we do, how can we do it?
And also, when you are rolling out or planning to utilize curricula that you get from other places, because again, there is some amazing curricula out there. And to an earlier point, a lot of funders will not be interested if they already know that curricula is out there. Then why am I giving you the money to do whole things? But there may be some funding to talk about making your curriculum or adjusting the curriculum to be culturally relevant to the communities that you're serving. And also getting feedback from the communities that you're serving. So when you do roll it out, you know, somebody says, hey, I don't understand what you're talking about, or that was a really great example, making sure that you add that feedback in and share it with the source of the curricula, and maybe we'll consider some partnerships there and how to roll it out. So yeah, that's a great point. Anybody else? Yes.
Good morning, my name is Cassandra McLean. I just wanted to know, how do you think the housing authority could help play a bigger role in bridging the gap for residents?
We just did a housing module with the College of Information, works pretty closely, not with the housing department, but with folks working in housing. We're trying to get folks housing, I guess. It was a challenging project. We're continuing just to make relationships at the housing level. There is, you know, I see that vary in the sector, but across organizations, some are really interested in digital inclusion, and some are not at all. I would say continue to raise your voice and bring up models, and we'll continue to work with them. We have invited the housing authority to participate in the Digital Opportunity Summit. That's one thing we're doing on October 15th, is the Digital Opportunity Summit. And we are working across all those sectors to try to get folks to be there, you know, and to be there to answer questions in a similar way that we are here today. So I wish I had that.
One of the areas that the Housing Authority has been really helpful for our office, the Office of Broadband and Digital Equity, has been really helpful in helping us understand what's going on with residents, kind of giving us a heads up and being supportive when we have initiatives. I remember in the good old days when the Affordable Connectivity Program was a real thing and was being funded, the housing authority in Baltimore City was a great partner in helping us set up opportunities and partner with existing opportunities that they had to get people signed up. For those who don't know what the Affordable Connectivity Program is, it was a program that was funded by Congress that and also supported by the Maryland broadband benefit. Yeah, okay, broadband benefit. There you go. Acronyms. So you start using them so often you forget what the underlying phrase is. With the Maryland broadband benefit. So what happened is that people would get up to $45 off of their broadband bill if they signed up for the Affordable Connectivity Program, and it was very to very specific people because Congress can't just say that is okay. Congress can't just let everybody get a benefit. So they had some specific qualifications and requirements. And one of them was if you are a resident in public housing. So everyone who lived there was automatically qualified. And so the housing authority was a really great partner in bringing people in. And one of the things that they did very early on was helping us translate to the community about the importance of it. And they helped us navigate some pretty rocky issues. At one point, there was one of our older adults who I was trying to get her to sign up, and she said, "How long have you worked here?" I was like, "Uh-oh." It's never a good idea when somebody asks you about your qualifications to sit there. And she said, "I've seen stuff like this before. People like you who are very well-meaning come in, get us to sign up for things, and then it disappears later on." What can I say? She's absolutely right. But because of what the housing authority and how we had interacted up to that point, I was able to say, well, that might be true. And it was. Don't get twisted. She was absolutely right. Because less than 10 months after that, maybe 12 months after that experience, Congress said, no, thank you, we're not going to do this anymore. But what I was able to say to her is by being transparent and being honest, like that might be absolutely true. So why don't you get this money now? Yeah, but that was because of the partnership. And even the reason that people walked through the door in the first place, because they had all heard this before. They'd all seen people come up and trying to get them signed up and things like that. But a lot of the staff and the housing authority had developed relationships with the individual communities and were able to get them in. There are a lot of people who don't trust us because we're the government, and let's be honest, in many cases, they shouldn't. Let's be clear. The government has done horrible things. Like redlining was created in Baltimore. Like we did that. Now other jurisdictions have taken it to an art form, but that started here. And if we don't acknowledge that that is part of the past that we have engaged in, then we won't be able to develop the trust and the buy-in with the community. And it's not my job to say, "Oh, that wasn't me. I wasn't here then." My email address ends at baltimorecity.gov. Just like the person who gave you a ticket and the person that did your water bill and all those other things. But my job is to let you know the benefits that I'm able to bring to the table and acknowledge the things that have happened. Not necessarily to defend them, but at least to acknowledge them and to work with our partner agencies so that we can make greater inroads and we can help people understand the benefits and also some of the challenges that we make. So I think that's how the housing authority can be helpful, just assisting us and also letting us know the things that are coming. Because if I'm not mistaken, normally what happens in tough economic times is that there's a shift to more online activities. And so if there will be a shift to online activities like application, renewals, and things like that, giving us a heads up so that and partnering with us so that we can get the digital navigators trained and get them to understand what those processes are going to be and a pathway for residents to come through and say, hey, this is the type of problems I'm having. How do you log on to this? What information do I need? We can get that information up front so we don't get the calls and like, well, there's a 404 error. I don't know what to do.
And Brett has digital navigators on housing navigators on staff. So again, partnering. So anytime the health department wants to send information to Pratt to tell us about, like we were saying, application time is coming. Our digital navigators try to identify community resources and get some folks quickly into some type of housing. And they work closely with the mayor's office of homelessness and to provide stable housing and connection to emergency shelters. So whatever you can do to partner with Pratt, send information about housing, what's going on, we would greatly appreciate it.
Another question? Yes, sir.
Bill Patrick again. Everything you're doing is about familiarity. If you can make a person familiar with the process, makes it much easier for them to go through it. My question to anyone is, how are updates from Microsoft, Apple, Google, and the like affecting you? Because a lot of times that operating system will change just enough that the instruction you had yesterday doesn't work tomorrow.
We'll give Manos a chance, and then I'll go to Devin, one of our digital equity grantees, digital equity fund grantees.
Well, I mean, track all that. We have OS recovery, Microsoft recovery tools on our website, but I'm a techie.
So we were using Google Classroom fully previously. We meet with Google quarterly to get updates around what's coming in that regard. Our OIT team, which is on informational tech, they have regular meetings with Microsoft. Sometimes they stop updates if they're going to cause a system-wide issue. That's more on their side, we're more on the instructional side. But it is like there have been times when updates have come that we weren't warned about that then create an issue, and then we're solving it at the back end. But usually we know it's coming. We can be aware of what it is and we can manage it so that the end user within city schools, at least, it's seamless for them most of the time. And when it isn't, that's when you don't get a response for us on other things as quickly as you normally would, because we're dealing with the fallout from something that just wasn't as simple as
You're becoming familiar with
yeah,
it.
yeah, right. Because sometimes things that folks think are simple aren't that way with certain types of devices or systems or platforms, right? Because sometimes those integrations aren't as seamless as we would hope. It's not as common, but it does happen. Yes.
I was going to say, niggas in the I'm sorry. Is teaching people how to, I hate to say this way, but it's really interesting, right? How to think, right? Because technology is always evolving. So you teach them how to like reprogram it so that some button on the screen or some button on the device is going to do that whole thing, even though it looks different. Like you'll find so much more like it, right? Because you can't help that it's changing and they expect it to change. But once you get them to reprogram their thinking to like, oh, it looks different, not to panic, but to just figure it out kind of thing. So we always try to just develop what I call a digital mindset first, right? Like, and really install those principles. Like this button actually has a function, even though they change color and do different things, like what's the function behind it. So as things change, you don't run into those, oh, I got to do iOS update and panic kind of thing, because they know something, the hardware is still the same, right? And it makes it so much easier to transition in and out of whether you're using Microsoft or Google or using Apple products. Just having that right mindset makes the world a difference.
I would say the other role is Google 3 before me. And so, like on my team, if we don't know how to fix something, we Google it. We do. And right? And then we try it. So it is about like trial and error, being in it and Googling it and asking others. Like it is about the Google is just crowdsource, right? It's just crowdsourcing in a more efficient way, but that's helpful.
And to your point also about familiarity, is that there are, particularly among many of our older adults, they grew up in a time where there was a magic button on the computer. If you touch that, everything would just blow up and they could destroy the entire internet. And that's a very real fear that many of them still have. And so to the point about the familiarity and teaching them to think, having a digital mindset, like some of it is really just that. It's okay. I mean, I tell the story often. My mom's first computer, I built it for her because I learned how to build computers because I looked at price tags and they scared me. So, it wasn't attractive, but it worked. And she didn't use it for the first month or two. And it was like, well, you do not like it? She's like, well, it's a great gift. I just don't want to break it. And so she was going to let it sit there literally collecting dust so that she wouldn't break a gift. And so what I ended up telling her is like, I built this one, and I was able to say that because I built it. And so if you break it, I'll just build another one or I'll fix it. And again, one of the first things she did, getting that digital mindset, was she first started playing Minesweeper and then Solitaire. Fast forward a good 15, 20 years now. Wow, it's a long time. Wow, that it is about 20 years. Okay. 20 years. She was leading her church's ministry for older adults on how to use Zoom and during COVID, how to help people navigate these types of things. And it started with getting beyond the fact that I'm going to blow up the computer and playing solitaire. So it really is about helping them to develop that digital mindset and not being afraid of these things.
One thing I've been focused on doing is it's kind of taking that approach, the digital mindset to AI, and particularly with community outreach, both within the university and outside of the university. I attended a wonderful workshop at UBAL last week. It was just basically, let's try AI. Let's let's, what is it? What is it? Kind of a presentation about the very basics, and then we sort of, save closed platform, and we could try lots of different things. Tried lots of different things, and there were teachers, mostly teachers there, but who just never even touched it before, and we're getting so much questioning and concern and excitement around AI that just demystifying it, just let's have an opportunity to play in a place where I feel safe. And so we're looking at trying to do that, go around, bring some computers in, and as a safe way that people can demystify and try it. And I love to just say, it's probably not AI that's going to take the job. It's somebody with AI skills and with AI familiarity that's going to take the job. So let's get everybody that familiarity in a safe way.
I will say too, as mentioned earlier, the back thinking, critical thinking is important. It's so important in using AI, right? In anything, but in using AI, because you have to discern whether what you ask for in your prompt is really what you're getting, right? And if there is bias embedded either in the prompt or the response, right? And if you wanted that bias or not, right? But there are times you're looking for history. So critical thinking is essential when you're using AI. And so if we're not pushing people to think beyond this basic knowledge, then we're not going to be able to use AI and the other tools deeply, right? And so that's just, and you can be critical thinking outside of technology, right? So just about expanding your thinking is the first step.
Exactly. And I'm always asking the customers, does this answer your question? It sounds wonderful. Yes, warmest and best regards. It's wonderful. But does this answer your question? Is this what you asked Chat GPT? It's like, well, no. So don't use that answer. Let's redo it. And again, like you said, biases. You gotta take the biases out of your question and just ask the straight question. Then you can get a better answer. But you still have to watch it. Don't just copy and paste that answer.
Is critical thinking the same thing as knowing how to ask a question?
Yes, me. I think in that context, prompt engineering is a skill, right?
What is that again?
Prompt engineering.
You could define prompt engineering for some of the people.
I'm about to.
Okay.
So when you put when you tell ChatGPT what to do, you prompt it, right? So then you develop the skill set from that, which is typically called prompt engineering, right? But the better the prompt, typically the better the results for the result, right? So I think this goes back to not even knowing the difference between asking a question, right? Like just putting the information in and getting the output out, right? And deciding if that output you receive, right, is what you're looking for, the answer you're looking for. So what I do is, right, I'll do the same prompt 25 times, right, depending on what I'm working on, just because that will start my real intellect, right? Real intelligence. You're like, oh no, this was better than I had, but it needs this, right? And I'll spend all day just prompting until I get it perfect, right? So it's some of me, it's some of the AI, and it's like, I'm gonna tell you now, some of the stuff is like, I start with one question and I'll go down a rabbit hole, right? So it's a little bit of critical thinking, phrasing the right question, but really just when you get to the weeds of it, it's just like, is this what I'm looking for now? right? And just kind of, I don't want to say dumbing it down, but like it's just as simple as that. Like, this is what I'm looking for. And the answer's not, and just keep learning it.
Yeah,
Until you get what you're looking for.
it's iterative the entire time, and there's always got to be that human loop of, working around it. But you can ask it to write the prompt for you.
Hi, I'm Whitney Murray. I'm Deputy Director of the Baltimore City Office of Planning and Development. Terry, you mentioned normalizing and formalizing digital navigating career pathways. Can you tell us a little bit more about what that means, especially in the context of reduced public monies for digital navigator programs?
Yeah, I think it's really about really being vocal about the role and the belief in the role and who can fill it in lots of different ways. And I think that starts from probably, I'm going to say 8th grade, but it's probably earlier than that. I've seen toddlers teach their grandparents how to use an iPad. So, but yeah, I think we see accessibility, we see, mandates coming in certain areas, but we don't see the connection to digital navigation and how we actually get that adoption. And I think, the driver moving forward without the funding has got to be workforce development. And in order to prepare as a community as a whole, communities together, communities as a whole, to fulfill that role, or we have what we need to see one of the biggest shifts we've seen in our economy and how so I think if we can kind of, continue to talk about the importance of these navigators and connecting people to technology so that we can drive the workforce and development. And I don't like using the term workforce, it sounds very make a bunch of workers, but that's what the funders are doing here. And that's it. It's an important role that is formalized and recognized. And it could be internships. It could be something, a high school class that I take. I got into digital inclusion by working in youth media nonprofit when COVID hit. And I also was the Youth Coalition Prevention Coalition director at the time. And so we just immediately started refurbishing computers, and then we worked with the CTE program in the public school. And recently we had all this after school program that was primarily filled with refugee kids because they felt like they fit in, and they came and we built an entire, all the way, full process refurbishment and distribution program. It's out of necessity. So I just want to continue to have young people recognize that connection and how they can play that role and how it can lead to a path of community service, it can lead to a technology career, it can lead to lots of different things.
I think so. It's these schools we've never had the funding to have a tech lead in every building. We don't have funding that we provide a tech lead in every building. All of our schools determine how their funding is going to be used. So for us, we ask that they have someone that is their tech lead or their champion in the building. Some schools are able to have a true position that's all that person does. Many of our smaller schools are not. So it might be the 5th grade teacher that is just really tech savvy and really excited about this work that's going to make sure they make the connections, right? Whereas the go-to when the teachers on the team have additional support needs, and then they'll connect with us if they can't help them, right? So it's finding your champions and providing as much training as we can, both in person, more synchronous now because we found that folks they're coming to that more because it's just easier to access, and then the asynchronous, and just providing lots of training and support and identifying those people, those tech leads in those buildings, and make sure they know who to connect with.
It's a shameless plug. So we have one of the people we have a process tomorrow. Sorry, has the contract for special status of teachers. So I understand something if we get the call, we'll also be trying to get navigators. So
Raphael.
Sorry. Is if someone needs tech assistance, themselves to get it done.
That's great.
And they'll have Walmart color details on.
So, just give me just a moment. We were talking about champions just a moment ago. I'd like to bring Gretchen, to the front, who has been.
She's gone.
Okay, well, maybe I won't.
I'll wait.
Okay, but Robert W. Joyce Foundation has been an incredible partner, and this is their space that they're allowing us to use, and not the first time. So I just wanted to take an opportunity, because every time I would look back over this, she'd be done. It's like, oh, wait, I'm coaching this time. But I just wanted to give her an opportunity if she had anything she wanted to say. But she has been not just a champion for like letting us use it, but also really kind of putting the money where the mouth is, or the policy is, and helping some really great projects around the city. So, right.
Thanks, very kind of you. Welcome to the Robert W. Joyce Foundation, and thanks for coming out. Bathrooms are.
So one thing with our training that's really important to us is that we have a certification attached to it, for that reason, just to give folks a little bit of a use, especially entry level tutor folks.
Yes.
Oh, my name is Barbara Bolden, and I'm Rebuild Johnson Square. My concern is about elementary school and the digital program there, because I'm finding that a lot of the parents in that area are having a problem. So how do we incorporate a program to assist them as well as those elementary school kids?
So in terms of parents, they want to make sure that they share their specific needs, if they're around technology, what those are with the new school coordinator, so that they can then create a tech night, which we can help support, right? Those kinds of things. But the first thing is this, parents communicating with the new school coordinator what those needs are, tech and other ones. So make sure that. In terms of students, each school determines what their staffing model is, and some of our smaller schools, which Johnson Square is one of them, may not have a tech teacher or a library specialist, who are typically the folks that are doing technology. So it is sometimes that involves a little more on the classroom teacher. And so for us to get that equity across our schools, part of that is why we're adopting Canvas, because we'll roll out our curriculum in the digital space, teach our teachers how to use it, and educate all students. This year, the rollout of those courses will be for high school, some middle school, it's a middle high, but mostly high school this year. All of our teachers will be using Canvas, but our high school students. Next year, we'll roll out to middle school, and the following year to elementary. We will not do pre-K, right? Because for us, pre-K, yes, sometimes teachers are doing iPads and things, but for us, pre-K is a lot of hands-on touching, feeling, learning, and we want to, we'll move into K, right? But we're not touching pre-K. We do, as a district, just rolled out pre-K curriculum. There are resources online for parents that teachers are sharing that are more like how do you learn at home and do things within your home to reinforce skills, but it's not using that device with the child. So for us, it really is about those pieces. So I would say the first stop is a community school coordinator. The second stop is just talking with the principal around what those support needs are, and the principal, they all know our team, and they can certainly reach out if more support is needed.
The Johnson Square is one of Pratt's newest library branches. Up and coming, we are actually cataloging books to go into that location. I don't have the date as of yet for the ribbon cutting, but it will be soon. And there will not be a digital navigator there. However, there will be an opportunity for us to provide digital literacy classes for the community. So that's one way that we'll be able to help those parents who may not be as tech savvy as their kids to be able to understand how to access the internet, how to navigate on the internet. I don't know, how to reach someone in gas and electric or city taxes. And so we'll be able to do that with that new branch. So we're looking forward to getting that up and running and getting in there to provide support for the community.
So thank you all for coming. So we're gonna wrap this up now. Our panelists are gonna give their final thoughts. But before you leave, I would like, well, you already left, but we'll talk later. But before you leave, what I would like is for you to get to know 3 new people. 3 people that you did not know when you walked in here. Get their contact information and make a pledge to follow up in the next few weeks to figure out how you can collaborate. Okay? Oh, there's also you'll also be receiving a survey about your experience and how we can make this better, and if it was reflective of the needs that you had or the desires when you came to the event. That's it. And get to know each other. Please don't forget that part. It's very important. So, ladies, what are your final thoughts to those gathered in person and online?
I think as we said before, we've been doing digital navigator work for years. I've been going out to the senior centers, I've taught at neighborhood library centers, and but to have an actual team that specializes in doing this work is essential. And so what we want to try to do is not only advocate from the library side, but also ask our communities to help us navigate or help us get to our council people, help us get to our governor and our mayor to let them know what are the important services that they're providing so that they can find funds from somewhere to keep us digital navigating more.
I think one thing for me is just hearing some of the things I heard today from partners and other entities I didn't know about, right? It's just some of them I did, some of them I didn't. And so I think just coming to events, listening to events, and sharing the resources that are out there is really just going to help everyone and sharing those widely. So I'll be signing up for newsletters today.
It's a long
right?
one.
So that I can then share those with my touch in my community beyond within some schools and beyond, right? And so I think for all of us to do that helps just spread the word about the great things that are happening, and it will help us continue to advocate for those to continue to occur and to grow.
A couple things I learned today and thought about today in our conversation. One of them I thought was an example of, with the parents using Canvas and all this. I think K-12 schools have a really good example of that can be modeled across other sectors, particularly healthcare, in terms of how staff and people are trained to use the portals. If you're rolling out Canvas, you're obviously thinking about parents. I'm not entirely sure that the healthcare world looks at it in quite the same way. That doctors and staff that are assigning people portals, we've seen some bias in that kind of thing, right? That person does not care about their healthcare because they're not getting a portal. Lots of stuff. So I think there's some good modeling models that work and that take those things into consideration that we could model that are replicate across the different sectors. So I just wanted to say that. It's interesting. What was the question? Just goodbye? Yeah. So please, October 15th is the Maryland Digital Equity Summit. It's going to be at the Veterans Community Civic Center in Silver Spring. We'll be holding a digital navigator training, intensive training and cohort with that'll be our second one. First one is going to be VA focused and Baltimore focused, so that'll be rolling out in the next couple of weeks. You can go to Marylanders.org, sign up for our newsletter. You can get that information. And you can always contact me, tmum, TMUMM, at umd.edu. If you want to talk about trainings and cohorts for the summit. Today, our sort of information gathering survey for the summit closes. So if you're interested in participating in that, you want to share ideas for speakers, topics, those kinds of things, please reach out to me. I'll make sure you get that. And then we also have, finally, the Maryland Digital Equity Awards. Those nominations are open right now, between now and September 4th or 8th. So they're open for a while. So if you get our newsletter, you'll see that. You'll have an opportunity. Please nominate folks. Please, we want to really celebrate this community who has worked so hard this year, the last 5, 6, 7, 10 years, without very much recognition. So please nominate folks, particularly folks that are doing the work day to day. So, thank you.
And I'll wrap this up by saying that the situation, while COVID has not kept us indoors anymore, it has reduced some of the urgency from other people. No one is coming to save us, or save our communities, and it is up to us to work together and collaborate to make sure that we save ourselves. Thank you all very much, and don't forget to meet 3 new people. Thank you guys so much. That was awesome. That was so awesome.
Yeah, no,